I have total respect for those traditional nightclubs because they've given everybody so much, but it's definitely time for change for all of us. About 30 years ago, I was always into music events. So when I was young, I went to Reading Festival, I saw Nirvana and loads of people like that. And I was a really big gig goer. And I sort of got to the end of that when I was about 22, been to Glastonbury, and I started being a secondary school teacher. And I was really at loss for something that would excite me musically as much as guitar bands. I was like, I feel like I've done it all. And then I walked into Heaven nightclub on a Friday with a friend of mine that I was teaching with, just by, or kind of almost by accident for a late drink. And I was like, what's this? And then I was kind of hooked, and I did 2 years going out every weekend. And then I started my own first show back in '97. I did that for 8 years. I kind of realized relatively quickly into doing shows that a more stable way of doing shows or being a promoter was to get involved in the venue side. Or as I said at the time, I was so excited about getting involved in shows that I wanted to be doing it like more than full time. So I wanted to be involved in the venues as well. I got an opportunity back in 2005 to be involved in my first venue. And really over the last 20 years, I've been involved in lots of venues, including when temporary event notices came in 2006. I was one of the first people to really make use of those in warehouses. And then I also did a load of festivals from 2012 to 2018, and then more after COVID. So really, I've done the whole range of events and the whole range of operational side of things. And the two things that I've really enjoyed beyond the music are mentoring younger people, because I used to be a school teacher, and also liaising with the authorities, the police, the council, the fire brigade, the health and safety stuff. So really my background has been partly operational, partly still being a promoter or event organizer. And I love it as much today as I did 30 years ago. Probably more, actually, I'd say. When we took over the site, it was a series of 1920s, or is a series of 1920s warehouses that for 13 years have been used by a landlord who runs a big haulage company. So the venue was fairly run down, or the space was very run down. The electrics were sort of running on a hope and a prayer. So the couple big things we did is we ripped out all the electrics, which took about 4 weeks. And then we put in event-grade electrics with expert electricians across the whole space. So that was a big job. And then the other thing that we've done is soundproof the roofs. And also, I think the final other really big thing is putting fire doors and fire exits. So all of those things were key to us showing Michael that we had a venue that was worth insuring. Michael's been like a huge asset to our business, because when we were arranging the insurance, he was very clear, he was very prompt, he was very precise. While we were arranging the insurance, we were still developing or building or changing the venue. So time was of an essence. So it was really good to speak to someone like Michael, who was just very clear, also very supportive as well, and went through the exact extent of the insurance we needed, how much it was going to cost, when it was going to be taken out of the account. Everything was very clear from the beginning, so it gave us a lot of confidence. We also had a slight detour in that our head landlord decided that he wanted to talk to us about the buildings insurance, which is his responsibility. And we also got Michael to provide an alternative quote for that as well. And he was incredibly prompt and helpful. So it felt like we got two services for the price of one in a very short period of time. So we started the relationship with NDML back in June, once we'd taken occupancy of the site and we were looking forwards to our first show. We'd seen NDML recommended by NTIA, the lobbying organisation for music and nightclub venues, and so they seemed like a natural fit for us as a music venue to go to them, because we knew they'd understand the sort of insurance we needed. I'd highly recommend not just NDML, but Michael as well, because when we were doing it, because this is a big undertaking and also because we were under time pressure, it was really helpful to have somebody that was always confident that the insurance would be delivered and delivered on time and delivered in a really clear way. And he's actually continued to help us. So at the weekend for our last show, we needed to get in an additional dressing room, which came in the form of a porta cabin. They wanted additional insurance for plants to move in the porta cabin and take it out again. Michael had that sorted within 24 hours. So for us, it's a one-stop shop, so I couldn't recommend them highly enough. Martyn's Law has been something that has been talked about in the industry for quite a few years. As it was going on the statute book, people were preparing the industry for it, like a lot of law changes. Like, I'm old enough to remember when no smoking came into place. So there was a lot of preparation from the industry, from security to police to venue managers to people working in venues to prepare for the Martyn's Law coming in. So we were all aware of why it came in because of the attack in Manchester. We were all aware of the seriousness of it, and we were all keen to do our part in terms of changing the way in which we could prevent potential terror activity happening in a place where large numbers of people are going to attend. So for us, it's looking at the perimeter, it's looking at concrete blocks, it's looking at ways to prevent people being able to drive in a vehicle and attack people. It's looking at the CCTV provision so that we're always aware who's on site and who's not on site during the week, before the show, during the show itself, and also a considerable amount of training with the bar staff, security and other people on site. And finally, just working with our medic company to make sure that everybody is eyes and ears on the site when we're open. The other thing that has affected our business for the positive is the change around additives, where those people tragically lost their life going to Pret and having sandwiches that had things in them that Natalie's Law, I believe it's called. So we enforce that on site with the food traders, and it's something that we then, as an extension, say to all the staff in the staff briefing. So that has definitely helped change the experience of running a venue for the better. The other thing that's changed is since COVID, when the police introduced the Ask for Angela scheme. That's also we think really improved things, particularly around, it used to be the norm, as the police would say themselves, that venues were expected just to allow patrons to leave even if they were inebriated. The idea was that it was better that they weren't inside accessing more alcohol than staying inside. But now, and we've noticed it really positively, holding people until somebody's responsible and sober can be guaranteed to take them home. So Ask for Angela and the Natalie Law definitely have affected us. What else would we like to see? I think that it's already an area that is something that people in the wider world are not aware of, but I always tell people we're already heavily scrutinised area of public activity, rightly so. Like sports grounds, like theatres, we are under a lot of jurisdiction. We speak to the council and police regularly. We're just continuing to develop and to abide by changes in things like the SIA scheme and all the different things that come in. And it's, I've helped run venues for 20 years. I've been involved in doing shows for nearly 30, and it's immeasurably better now than it was when I first started. Yeah, so it's a lot safer for us as venue organisers as well as the customers. Yeah, so it's good. Yeah, I think the upcoming budget is a challenge for anybody that's involved in business. Anybody that's living in the country is concerned about the budget. We are in a difficult situation. I'm aware that the industry lobbying groups are lobbying for a reduction in VAT, which would be amazing. But I don't think it's realistic. I don't think they're going to do it. If they can bring in the much promised reform around business rates, that would be very helpful, which they're still talking about doing. It's not the budget, but it's related to the current government. The current government, as you will know, agreed a task force. The task force has already reported about making licensing law more consistent. We're all aware that if you're in one borough or one county or one town, not the other, there can be a very inconsistent licensing environment. I'm really pleased with the recommendations the task force group has given. I see that as actually more significant for the future of music venues, because it's going to empower us to be able to do good practice without feeling that we're going to have inconsistent experience from the authorities in terms of looking to shut us for something that is outside of our control. But with the budget, I mean, we would all love for a more favourable tax regime around national insurance and VAT. I'm not expecting it there. There's certainly a number of things that are said within the wider industry which I don't find are very helpful. One of them is that festivals are growing and music venues are declining. The other one is that music venues are all shutting and none of them are opening. But like anything in life, it's not the whole truth. So when it comes to the festivals versus music venues, what I'm seeing in London, which the place I really know about, there's quite a few new venues opening. Yes, some of them are small, some of them big, or some of them are being redeveloped. Like Shepherd's Bush Empire, been there for years. It's just had a big fit out. Olympia over in that side of London is building a new 10,000 capacity venue for next year. So there's lots of stuff happening with the opening of venues. So it's not true that venues are just shutting. Festivals versus music venues, I've done both. Yes, what is now happening is that you're having a bit of both. So festivals are seeking often to replicate the intimacy and the buzz and the excitement of a music venue, but just outside, right? And in music venues, we deliberately took on this space because our biggest space is the outside. So if you like, we could always do an outdoor experience. So I think there is a halfway house where there is a responsibility on event organisers for festivals and for music venues to make themselves relevant so that both can deliver the numbers. I think they can exist side by side. I think it's vital that they exist side by side. Let's not forget something really important as well. This is the first decent summer's weather we've had in five years since 2020. British weather is very capricious. Yeah, the idea that festivals are just going to clean up and music venues are going to shut is just not the reality. Yeah, so I think it is about being as flexible as possible as a music space. So we explicitly are not a nightclub. We are an arts centre for two reasons. One, because I was inspired by an arts centre near where I grew up in Warwickshire that was all things to all people as I was growing up in the 80s, and it's just had a refit actually. It's still all things to all people, from cinema to corporate to weddings to whatever, but it's a really interesting setup. But also we knew we couldn't just do raves, yeah? It wouldn't honour the size of the space, it wouldn't honour the commitment the landlord and the authorities have given us with the licence. In fact, when we agreed the licence with the authorities, we explicitly said, we're going to in the longer run do a food court, we're going to do a rehearsal space, we're going to do English as a second language, we're going to do corporate. Because also we, as the people involved in this space, we want new challenges. We've been doing music, or electronic music in particular, for years, and we love it. But we'd also like to be challenged with these other things. I have total respect for those traditional nightclubs because they've given everybody so much, but it's definitely time for change for all of us. I think that there's a very bright future for people running entertainment spaces. I'm sure you may have seen there's a lot in the press, in the hospitality press, about the growth of stadium tours and the success of places like the Spurs Stadium and so on. So at the very height there is that. London on the much smaller level, but still an investment, the so-called listening bars that have come from Japan. They went from 1 in London, there's now 13 and more planned for these high-end audio listening bars. And then there is also people that are being innovative. They're doing everything from a brewery space that also has a commitment to music in the brewery space, to the coffee spaces that also have better audio and have a booker for it. There is people in the community and religious spaces now. So I'm talking to a much smaller church in Stoke Newington for another project that's just started to do very small sit-down live gigs. Yeah, so I think there is a real innovation coming in the industry to be able to allow people to put on music in a whole range of spaces where there wasn't before. So where it was stuck in, if you like, a small number of very traditional live or nightclubs, I see that changing, and I see that changing for the better, because everybody loves music and wants that in their life. But also music venues will do everything from comedy to English as a second language to theatre space. I think one of the great mysteries is why theatre is such a separate space to music. Now, it's developed with the Palladium and that group in doing concerts, but it's kind of crazy because we're essentially the same thing. You know, we're entertaining people, so I think that's changing. Do we need a revolution? I think that the revolution is ongoing. There has been enormous change in the time I've been involved in music venues, almost exclusively for the better. And I think that the sky's the limit in terms of what things can change. Also, the final thing, which I haven't mentioned, technology is vastly improved. Whereas sound, like I used to do Brixton Academy a lot in the like 2003 to 2008. I did it 3 times a year. Oh, the sound was so challenging because it doesn't, now they've got a permanent system in there, but it was really challenging. Even with the best sound systems, the technology was just not there to cope with it. Now the technology with sound systems, with the throw, with the sound attenuation, it is there. It's there with the tills, it's there with the refrigeration, it's there, you know, there's just so, even down to, you know, the days of paper guest lists. We still get some people trying to do paper guest lists. They're all gone. People can be sure now they're going to get into an event, whereas with paper guest lists, 50% of the time you turn up and you wouldn't get in. So I think technology is a very exciting part of the revolution. You know? So the Uberization or Amazonification, some people don't like it, but I've already seen how it's enabling us to do better shows.